Hello everyone, my name is Brittany and I'm so happy to be with you today for our Thursday adult craft. Today we are going to be making colorful rock mandalas. I have a previous example here. We wanted something colorful and fun to fit right into our summer reading challenge theme of Reading Colors Your World. Just a quick reminder that the challenge goes until July 20th, so you all only have a couple days left to be sure to log your reading and come into the library to collect your prizes. Keep in mind that we are doing a simplified craft version of the mandala, but as a little bit of background, mandalas are really complex works of art that were created in the service of Buddhism. The earliest ones were produced in the 4th century in many Asian countries, and since then their presence has really expanded throughout the world. So if you want to learn more about those, I definitely encourage you to come into the library to do so. And in the meantime, we'll go ahead and do our version and get started. All right, everyone, so let's get started and review the materials we'll need today. For those of you that picked up a craft supply bag last Thursday, you will have all of these materials already. If you didn't pick up the supply bag, that's no problem. Many of these things you can find at home. So let's get started. Before we did so, I wanted to give you a better close-up of what this rock mandala is going to look like once we're done. This is one that I did previously. Now keep in mind, if this is too much detail or seems overwhelming, we're going to start with the simplified version and you can add or leave out as much detail as you want. So we can definitely customize this for whoever is doing the rock mandala art. That's the beautiful thing about it. Okay, so to start here, I just have a piece of newspaper covering my surface. Painting can get a little bit messy. I have a flat river stone. Here we go. You'll notice it's pretty thin, pretty flat, fits in the palm of my hand. You can definitely use different sizes. I have my paint here at the ready. Now keep in mind that you need very little paint for this project. In fact, with as little as I have, I might actually have too much. You can use any colors that you prefer. I've started with white. I have black to cover my surface. I have red, orange, yellow, green, and purple. I myself didn't have a bright and vibrant blue that stood out against the black backing of the rock mandala, so I just left it out. Now, we're going to use a variety of rounded shapes. If you take a look at our rock mandala, it may seem that a lot of skill was involved, but the key is to have rounded tools that you can use, and I promise it's much more simple than it looks. So let me show you what I'm working with today. I have either a pen that has a circular top there, or you can use a pencil. I have a fine paintbrush for our smaller detail. I have 3 Q-tips here, and all I've done is kept one end as per normal, the usual kind of Q-tip, and then I, using my fingers, have just removed the cotton swab from the other end. What that gives us is a perfectly round little tool here for some of our smaller detail work. And then last but not least, I have a simple paper clip. People also use toothpicks, which are really handy as well, so either or works. To be able to use this, all I'm going to do is pull the edge straight out so that it's a straight tool and I have my pointy edge here. All right, so I'm going to move these things to the side so we can get started. I also have some paper towels and a cup of water to the side. I don't think I'll need the water, but I have it just in case. And it really is handy to have paper towels because there might be times when you need to rub some of the paint off of the tools that you've been using. Let's get started. So to start, and I'm going to use my hands as well as my tools. So to start, I'm going to create the black base for my rock mandala. I'm just going to dip my finger into the black paint here, and I am going to cover. I'm going to do this by simply smearing my finger onto the top, making the paint as thin as I can, so you don't want any gloopy bits that are going to be really thick and take a long time to dry. And I'm just going to try to cover as much as I can. Now, if you prefer to have some of the white rock showing underneath, then you would just put less black paint on. But it's really to your preference. I just find that the black backing really makes these vibrant colors pop. All right, and I'm going to let dry for just a moment. So in the meantime, I'm going to wipe off my hands. I can also paint the other side black and do 2 mandalas, so it's kind of a 2-for-1. But for our purposes, I'll just show you on the one side, and I'll be back momentarily as soon as our initial paint has dried. All right, so it looks like our black paint as a backing is dry. So now we're going to start applying the colored paint. So I'm going to start with the center dot here I have is white, and I'm going to use my pen. So to do that, I am going to just simply dip from above and go straight into this white paint. I can kind of blot it so that it isn't too gloopy and that the whole pen bottom is covered there. Now, to really make this a lovely concentric, or a very clean circle, the key is to start from above and go straight down. You want the white dot to be in the middle of your rock. So I'm just going to gently press and come back up. You'll notice because I went slowly and because I really came from above and then tried to pick straight up, not from the side or moved around, that it really did create this beautiful circle here. So I'm going to put my pen aside. Now I want to use one of the smaller tools that I have to create the red dots right around the center here. You'll notice that the dots closest to the center are smaller and closer together. As we move out, the color dots get larger, and we leave more space in between to really add those fine details. So keeping that in mind, I'm going to use one of the Q-tips that I have here. I'm going to use the end without the cotton swab because it is such a small circular surface, and it's going to give me those nice clean red dots in the middle. So once again, I have my paint and I'm just going to dip from above right down into the red there. You can kind of blot just to make sure that there's not a bunch of goopy paint, that it's pretty clean. And I should have mentioned at the beginning, I am using simple water-based acrylic craft paint. So if you're using your own paint at home, you can really use any kind, but I find this is a great type of paint for this project. The only thing you have to keep in mind is if you choose a place in your garden, make sure it's away from sprinklers or water, or if you choose to place it in your kitchen, make sure it's far enough away from your sink and your faucet, because since it's water-based, if it does get wet, it might smear a little bit, so just be mindful of that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to put this down. I'm going to come from above and following the outside of my white circle, I'm going to make my red circles. So I'm just going to go around and I'll go ahead and lift it up as I get further. So you're just going to stay as close to the white circle as you can. I can re-up on the paint anytime I need it. And I am going to make these dots very close together, almost touching really. So if you'll notice, I'm halfway there. Okay, and I'm just going to keep going around. You can use very light pressure when you're bringing your Q-tip from above. Just the slightest touch will apply the paint, and it'll also make sure that your circles stay nice and tidy if you're just using light pressure there. All right, so there is our first ring. You'll notice they're not all the same size, they're not perfect. Some have a little more spacing and some have a little less, and that is okay. As long as we're following the general trend here, this is great. So I'm going to just simply use one of the paper towels that I have on hand. I'm going to wipe off the red paint from my Q-tip here. I can also use another clean Q-tip, that's no problem at all, but since red and orange are so similar in the same color family, I'm just going to wipe and then reuse. So I've got my orange paint here, and once again, I'm going to use the part of the Q-tip that has no cotton swab, just because I think the sizing will be right. So again, I've dipped. Now, since I'm a little further out than the red, I do want to space my orange dots a little bit further. The way that I have found it's really helpful for the overall design is to place your next row between a gap between your two smaller circles. So what I mean is, let me use my paper clip here. So if you're looking at these two particular dots, I have a gap here between the two circles, so that's where I'm going to put my orange dot. Of course, I want to move out a little bit so that I have space. And there's my first one. Now, if I follow this trend and put orange dots between each of my red dots, then it really does work out that it looks like the design is getting larger. I have a nice guide that I can use, and it looks really neat and tidy. If neatness and tidiness is not your favorite thing, then go wild and do it however you prefer. I think the point of this is just to have fun and create something beautiful. So again, I'm still following the guidance of putting my orange dots in the gaps between my red. So that looks pretty uniform to me. Okay, so now I'm going to change course. My next color is going to be yellow, and instead of the small cottonless part of the Q-tip, I'm going to switch over to the part with the cotton swab. That's going to give me a larger circle, which will help me naturally expand the design. So let me go ahead and set this down. So I'm just, again, going to come from above, dip straight down into my yellow, and for the cotton swab tip, you can just kind of roll it a little bit. Just make sure that the end of your cotton swab is nice and covered. I can blot it if I need to, and I can re-dip whenever I need to. So once again, I'm going to be looking for the gaps between the orange, and I'm going to just move out slightly, and we're going to be using a larger circle. So I'm going to start here. And again, I want to use really light pressure, especially for these larger circles. As they get larger, if I came straight down and used a lot of pressure, then the circle would be bigger. However, if I'm coming straight down and using very light pressure, then I can determine the size of the circle that I want. So that's very light pressure, and that's pushing down a lot harder. Do you see how the size changes? So that is the really nice thing about these rock mandalas. You don't have to have a lot of art experience. You just have to be able to come from above, go straight down, and then it allows you the control to really determine the sizing of your mandala. All right, got a little off there, but that is okay. All right, so that's looking good. So now I'm going to move out to my green, which is next. So I'm once again going to use my cotton swab with the cotton tip end. I'm going to come straight from above and dip down into my green. Can blot a little bit. Now, because I use light pressure for the yellow, my circles are smaller. I'm going to use a little deeper pressure for the green because even though I'm using the same tool, it will make my circle a little bit bigger, which is what we're looking for. So once again, I'm going to go in the space between the yellows, further out, and I'm just going to really push down all the way because that's going to give me a green circle that is slightly larger than the yellow that came before. Okay. So we will get our basic rings of color onto our mandala, and then we will go into the detail work. So again, if you're someone that feels a little bit intimidated by the small detail, or if you just like simplicity in art, then you can just do the basic ring of colors here. How in depth you go is completely up to you. All right, and then last but not least, now I'm actually going to use, I had this pencil here at the beginning, I'm actually going to use the pencil eraser for my final color, which is purple, because this pencil eraser is going to give me a larger size than the cotton swab. And if I use something slightly larger, I can take the purple almost to the edge of this mandala, which I think will be really nice. So again, I'm eraser down, I'm going to dip from above straight down into the purple here. I can blot as I need, and I can refill as I need. So one final time, I'm going to start in the space between the green, a little bit further outward, and you do see the size differential between the green and the purple. So I think this is gonna work. Now for the purple, I am going to do some detail between these large purple dots, so it's okay that there are large spaces. We'll go ahead and fill those in, and you can as well, as long as that's what you want your mandala to look like. Okay, I'm gonna go the other way around here, just doing the best I can to fill these in. As you're handling and holding this, just be really careful and mindful of which paint is still wet. I'm trying my best to hold at the very bottom edges here so that I don't smear anything. But of course, when you're working with paint, accidents can happen, so we'll just do our best. Now the last ones I have are here, here, and here. All right, so you see our colorful mandala. The basic color rings are there, so I'm gonna set this down momentarily. Okay, so now I'm going to add detail in the places that we still have blank open spaces. So the tools that I'm gonna use for the detail are, once again, the Q-tip that doesn't have the cotton at the end, and I'm going to bring in my unfolded paper clip because this is the finest edge that I have here. I also have this fine-tipped paintbrush, so I'll use that a little bit as well. I think I'm just gonna mix it up to make it fun for myself, so you can experiment and try with whichever one works best for you. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I am going to, the place that I really notice the gaps are between the yellow, so I'm gonna start there. I'm going to use my fine tip paintbrush here. I'm going to dip into my yellow, and then how you fill in the design is really up to you. What I'd like to see, oh, pardon me, my filming is not on point here. So what I'd like to see is I'm going to do some smaller dots between my yellow dots here and see how that looks. So I'm gonna place this down because it'll be a little bit easier for my hand posture. So again, I'm just going really slow. I'm holding my paintbrush directly above and I'm coming down as straight as I can. And then I'm lifting up as straight as I can. And I've decided that I'm going to try 2 vertical dots here to help fill in this space. You can do smaller dots. You can use a different color. You could highlight it with white. I'm just kind of experimenting as I go and following my heart here, which is what art should be about, right? Just finding time to relax, to do something that feels nice. Okay, and then here are my last 2 vertical dots here. And let me show you a little bit closer. When I say vertical, what I mean is that they're vertical between the yellow circles here. So again, you can do a different shape, a different design, whatever you want, but that's how I've decided to fill mine in. Now, I'm gonna change it up a little with the green. I'm going to wash my paintbrush here, or really I'm just cleaning it off with a paper towel. And now I'm gonna do the green. So I'm going to use the green paint to fill in So again, I've got my paintbrush and I've got my green paint here. Now, instead of vertical dots, I'm going to do horizontal to fill in the space between the green. So I'm going to place it down and then I'll hold it closer once we get there. Now, if I want the green detail dots to be a little bit bigger than the yellow, again, all I can do is push down a little bit harder on my paintbrush. That will cause the size of the circle to expand. Now, as I go along, I notice that all of my spacing is not the same. So some of these, I only have room for one small detail dot, and the others, I have room for two. And that's totally okay. That may not be the way traditional mandalas are painted. I know the extreme level of detail is very intentional in the way that they were first created. But for our purposes of just doing our own, relaxed, crafty version, I'm just gonna say that is okay. All right, so now you see that I have my green dots, my detail dots, that are going horizontal instead of vertical. It creates, a really dynamic look. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is the purple. Again, I'm going to add some purple between the existing purple dots, and then I'm going to do some white detail to really make these colors stand out. Now, for the purple in between, because I'm working with such a large size of dot and my detail can be a little bit bigger, once again, I'm going to use the cotton swab, the Q-tip, and I'm going to use the end here that does not have the cotton swab because that'll give me a really clear circular template that I can use. All right, so here we go. Purple paint on the end. All right, everyone, so a closer look. So again, I decided to go back to the vertical dots. You'll notice some have just one, some have two, and some have three. So whatever your spacing allows is what you can do. So I have all of my colors filled in. The last thing I'm going to do is create some white detail around the colors to really make those vibrant colors stand apart. You'll notice in the previous example that I have, you can see the white detail, just adds that extra touch. So to do that, I am going to grab my paper clip and I am going to dip the very tip of my paper clip in the white paint here. And I'm going to use this arc shape. So I'm going to do it around the very edge, the purple here, and I'm going to set this down. So I'm basically going to circle the outside edge of my largest purple dot here. And I'm also going to bring some white between the large purple dot and the smaller detail. Okay, so you see that there. So again, the way to make these really clean circles is just to make sure that your paper clip has plenty of paint on it and then come straight from above, tap, and come straight back up. So I'm just going to add white detail wherever I see fit, wherever I think that it'll really create some nice contrast. So I'm going to do that now. I'll speed it up a little bit and then we'll go ahead and look over the final product. I really can't wait to see how everyone else interpreted this and what way you decided to go. That's the fun in it. You can really do anything that you want. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm also going to add some white highlights between the green and yellow and some of the inner circle colors. That way I'm creating some nice definition and helping the mandala to look a little bit more full. All right, everyone, so that's where I'm going to leave mine. I think it's, in my opinion, just the right amount of detail that makes the color stand out, but without it looking too busy. So this is what mine looks like. Again, some of my purple went off of the back edge. Ooh, sorry, but that's okay. I think it kind of looks nice on that edge there. This is our DIY rock mandala. I hope you find a wonderful place for it in your home or in your yard. Again, be careful of the water, but I think this is a really nice piece to remind us, you know, to take a deep breath when you need it. It's a beautiful way to infuse some color in your life. It's a great reminder that we're all connected. So whatever it brings to mind for you and whatever purpose it serves, I just hope that it is bringing value to your life regardless. So thank you so much for joining me. And I just love knowing that there are so many beautiful, unique mandalas out there. Thank you all so much for following along with me today. I hope you had as much fun painting as I did, and I hope that you're able to find some really special places to put your new rock mandalas on display. Stay tuned for our August craft when we are going to make our own DIY ninja stress balls. I'm really excited about that one. And until then, thank you so much for tuning in. Take care.